My wife has stopped talking to me about anything other than chores or the kids. She snaps at me over the smallest things. We haven't been intimate all year, and I'm terrified she's only staying because leaving me would be harder than loving me. My wife has been so cold towards me for the last couple of months. It feels like she's here physically, but she's gone emotionally. We still talk, of course, but it's not really talking. It's just the day-to-day bare minimum. What's for dinner? What's on the grocery list? What's going on with the kids? We have a 9-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter. I feel like I'm losing her, and I don't know what to do. To make sense of this, I think I need to go all the way back. Because our story isn't some casual dating app fling. We go way back. It was 2003. I was 11, she was 9. The first time I met her, I swear to God, something clicked in me. Puppy love, childhood crush, soulmates, call it whatever you want. All I knew back then was that I just wanted to be around her. Her laugh, the way she lit up a room. Even at that age, I was hooked. By the time I was 15, I couldn't keep it in anymore. I confessed. Told her how I felt. She rejected me. Said she didn't feel the same way. That crushed me, but I carried on. Years later, she admitted she had felt the same, but in that moment she'd been overwhelmed, didn't know what to do. Not long after that, my parents split up. Ugly divorce. I moved away to another city, and she and I lost contact completely. Fast forward almost a decade, 2014. I'm 22, back in my hometown visiting old school friends. By chance, we crossed paths again. And that was it. Fireworks. All those old feelings rushed back instantly. Only this time, she felt the same too. She finally confessed her feelings, and we started dating. And God, it was everything I had dreamed about as a kid. We moved in together in 2015. In 2016, our son was born. That was tough. She struggled with postpartum depression. At her lowest, she confided in me that she'd battled depression even before that. It was one of the hardest times of our lives. She was in so much pain, and I was trying so hard to hold everything together, supporting her, caring for our newborn, trying to keep our little family afloat. But we made it through. When she finally started to feel better, I proposed. She said yes. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. We weren't in a good place financially, though. I was a student, she was working part-time after maternity leave, and weddings aren't cheap. So we postponed the big wedding dream. I told myself it didn't matter. We loved each other. We'd have our special day eventually. In 2019, right before the pandemic hit, we did a small, budget-friendly ceremony instead. No big party, but we were officially husband and wife, and that was enough for me. Meanwhile, life kept happening. I'd gotten into university, but it was 200 kilometers away, so we packed up and moved. She found work, and I kept studying. I took over a lot of the responsibilities with our son, especially when he got sick. She had the steady job, so I stayed home when needed. It stretched out my degree, sure, but family came first. And then, of course, COVID hit. Everything slowed down. In 2020, our daughter was born. Another huge shift. Another move. This time back to our hometown because our flat had mold, and the landlord refused to fix it. Bedroom, walls literally black with it. I didn't want my kids breathing that in, so we left. At first, we moved back in with her parents because we hadn't found anything affordable yet. Eventually, in 2022, we got our own place again, small but close to her family, and it worked. Through it all, I thought we were doing okay. Life wasn't glamorous, money was tight, but we had each other, we had our kids, and that was everything to me. We'd been through depression, relocations, degrees, jobs, babies, mold infestations, pandemics, all of it. And still I thought we were solid. We were a team. Around this time, everything started to unravel again. My wife's depression, which had always been there in waves, flared up worse than I had ever seen it before. She was questioning everything. Our choices, our marriage, our kids, even her own identity. It was like nothing was safe from her doubts. She went into therapy and slowly, she started to find her footing again. I was relieved. I've seen her fall into darkness before, but 2022 was different. Darker. I honestly thought I might lose her to it this time. Meanwhile, I was still dragging myself through the tail end of my degree. I'd been working on my bachelor's thesis, finally after all the delays, the stops and starts, the moves, and the pandemic. But life doesn't exactly pause for academics. At the time, our daughter wasn't in daycare yet, and my wife had already gone back to work. So once again, I slipped into the role of stay-at-home dad for months. Early 2024, I finally submitted and finished my thesis. That moment should have felt like a huge victory. A weight lifted. My daughter was finally in daycare, my son settled in school, my wife working steadily again. On paper, things looked stable. A family running smoothly. All the pieces in place. But reality wasn't that simple. You see, in my field, becoming a teacher in Germany, a bachelor's degree isn't enough. It's basically useless on its own. You have to go on to get your Master of Education. There are literally no job offerings without it. So, after all these years, all the sacrifices, I was really only halfway there. And then came the kicker. My university scrapped the remote classes that had saved me during the pandemic. No more logging in from our hometown. Now it's all attendance-based. Lectures, seminars, everything in person. Which would be fine, except our life is rooted here, 200 kilometers away from campus. My wife has her job here. My son has his school here. My daughter has her daycare here. We have family nearby who support us. Uprooting everyone just so I can sit in lecture halls again? Not an option. I knew that instantly. But that doesn't solve the problem of how I'm supposed to keep studying when I'm 100 kilometers away from where I need to be. So this leads to what I think might actually be the root of the problem, and honestly, the part where I feel completely lost. When I started my master's degree, I knew the commute was going to be brutal. There was no way I could make that kind of round trip every single day, so I did what I thought was the only solution. I rented a tiny room near the university. Nothing glamorous, just a bed, a closet, a desk, and a shared kitchen and bathroom with strangers. It was purely survival mode. The schedule was hellish. Every Sunday afternoon I'd leave, kiss my wife and kids goodbye, and get on a train for 4 hours just to make it in time for my Monday, 8 a.m. class. I'd stay until Wednesday, where I had one miserable 8 a.m. lecture. Then I'd rush straight to the station to catch the first train back. If all went well, and delays were common, I'd walk through our door around 4 p.m. Wednesday, usually exhausted and wired from the constant travel. I'd have Thursday with my family, one day that felt like a fragile bandage over a gaping wound, before heading back out again for my Friday classes. Then Friday evening I'd get home, spend Saturday with them, and before I could even breathe it was Sunday again, and I was packing my bag. Over and over. It was stressful for me, yes, but I know it must have been 10 times worse for my wife. She was left behind, working her own job, holding down the household, taking care of our kids almost single-handedly. On top of that, her parents' health was declining, so she was pulled in every direction at once. She was a full-time employee, full-time mom, and part-time caretaker, all while I was physically gone most of the week. I can't even begin to imagine how heavy that must have felt for her. And the worst part? She didn't always handle it with quiet resilience. There were nights she would call me sobbing, overwhelmed by the kids, by her parents, by work, by everything. And I would sit there, phone pressed to my ear, 200 kilometers away, completely useless. All I could do was murmur words of comfort, tell her it was going to be okay. But inside, I felt like trash. There were days I seriously thought about quitting. I thought, what am I doing? What's the point of all this if my marriage crumbles in the process? I even told her I could pause my studies, get a part-time job locally, and be home more. I meant it too. But she shut that down fast. She told me point blank that if I didn't finish my degree, if I didn't push through to the end and finally start earning a proper salary, she would leave me. So I pressed on. Out of fear. Out of love. Out of duty. Honestly, I don't even know anymore. But I kept going. Still, I couldn't ignore the toll it was taking on both of us. Sometimes, just to ease her burden for even a little while, I'd skip classes and catch earlier trains home. I knew I was risking falling behind, but the thought of her drowning in all that stress while I sat in a lecture hall made me sick. And when I was home, I tried to make up for it. I'd take on the trash, the laundry, the groceries, the cooking, anything and everything that I could squeeze into the short time I had. I wanted her to see that I was trying, that I wasn't abandoning her, even though I was physically absent most of the week. Second semester felt like such a breath of fresh air compared to the chaos of the first. Instead of constantly living out of a suitcase and clocking endless hours on trains, I finally had some stability. My university required an internship at a school, and by sheer luck, they happened to be partnered with a school not too far from where we live, about 30 kilometers away. I jumped on the chance, applied for that school, and, to my relief, I got in. So for the past 6 months, life looked almost normal. I worked during the hours our kids were at daycare and school, and then I was home every afternoon and evening. The constant train ride stopped. The lonely nights in that rented room near campus stopped. For once, I could actually eat dinner with my family during the week. I took on most of the household duties, cooking, cleaning, laundry, groceries, all the things I'd been scrambling to do in small bursts before. I wanted to give her a break, to make up for all those months where she had been carrying everything by herself. But of course, life with kids is never predictable. Emergencies happen. Daycare calls to say one of them is sick. School closes unexpectedly. You plan for a smooth day, and suddenly everything falls apart. The internship came with strict rules. Attendance wasn't optional. If I missed days, I risked failing, and if I failed, it wasn't as simple as just trying again the next week. I'd have to wait for the next semester, reapply, and pray that the same school would even take me back. After everything I've already delayed, the thesis, the semesters lost during the pandemic, the constant setbacks, the idea of failing was terrifying. So when those inevitable sick days and closures happened, I couldn't be the one to stay home. I couldn't risk it. That responsibility fell on her shoulders. And she was angry. I could see it in the way she looked at me, hear it in the way she spoke. She felt abandoned in those moments. She wanted me to step up, and I didn't, or maybe I couldn't. At the time, I told myself it wasn't my fault, that this was just the reality of my situation, but deep down, I also knew she had every right to feel frustrated. She's been holding everything together for so long, and in her eyes, I was just adding one more weight to the pile she was already carrying. And this is where it stings the most. She was the one pushing me so hard to finish my degree. She told me flat out that if I didn't, she'd leave. So when these situations came up, I thought she'd understand. I thought she'd step in, knowing that all of this sacrifice was supposed to be for us, for her, for the kids, for our future. But instead of feeling like teammates, we ended up standing on opposite sides of the same problem, both resentful of the other. The internship is behind me now, thankfully. But the relief is short-lived, because starting in just 2 weeks, I'm back to university classes. This time, the schedule is a bit kinder, Monday through Thursday, which means I'll only need to be away for part of the week. I'll be home Thursday evenings through Sunday afternoons, and the train rides are cut down to about 8 hours a week instead of the grueling back and forth I had before. But I can't shake this knot in my stomach, because I know it's waiting on the other side of those train rides. Her. Alone with the kids. Alone with her job. Alone with her parents' declining health. And every time I pack my bag and step onto that train, she'll be left behind, juggling everything without me again. So finally, this brings me to where we are now, the current situation, the part that keeps me awake at night. We haven't been intimate in months. If I really think about it, all of 2025 has been completely dry. On its own, that doesn't bother me too much. Her libido has never been high, and over the years I've adjusted to that. But what does bother me, what gnaws at me in the quiet moments, is everything else that comes with it. It's not just a lack of intimacy, it's the distance. Every time I try to talk to her about anything big or small, she snaps. It doesn't matter if it's something serious or something mundane, like asking where something is in the fridge. The reaction is the same, sharp, cold, almost like she can't stand the sound of my voice. For years, I brushed this off when it happened occasionally. I told myself it wasn't about me, that it was about the stress of the day, the kids, her parents, work. And sometimes that was probably true. But these last couple of months, I try not to snap back, but sometimes I do. And when I do, it makes everything worse, because that's not who I want to be with her. I don't want to be her opponent in a shouting match. I love this woman. God, I love her. I've loved her since I was a kid. She has been my best friend, my partner, the person I thought I would grow old with. The idea of becoming two people who can't talk to each other without hostility terrifies me. But if I'm honest, that's where we are. She feels so far away. I can't reach her. I can't even tell if she wants me to try anymore. I've started to fear that she's only staying because it's easier than leaving. That I'm not her partner anymore, not her love, but just a convenience. Someone who helps keep the household running while she's the one bringing in most of the money. I don't want to believe she's fallen out of love with me. But I can feel it in my bones, the coldness, the distance, the silence that fills every room we're in together. And I don't know how to fix something when the other person won't even meet me halfway.